This is the Nikkor Z50 1.8S. Now this lens has been around for a couple of years now, but I only managed to pick one up in January this year. I bought this with my own money, so no one paid me to do this review or anything. I am just really impressed by this lens and wanted to do this video. Hey guys, what's up? My name is Riyad Ramnath. I'm a professional wedding photographer here in Trinidad and Tobago, and I love cameras and gear and just love doing and talking photography on a whole. So if you're into photography as well, it would be an absolute honor if you considered joining my little community here on YouTube and subscribing to my channel. So I've shot a couple of weddings, engagement sessions, and a proposal with this 50mm 1.8S so far. And I have to say it really performs above its price. So is this lens still a good option nearly 7 years after it came onto the market? Yes, 100%. Yeah, it's still good, like really good. One of the reasons why I love the Nikon 50mm f1.8S is its sharpness. This lens is ridiculously sharp, even wide open at f1.8. When you zoom in, you can see just how much detail this lens captured. Skin texture, hair strands, everything is rendered with incredible clarity. And what's really impressive is that the sharpness isn't just in the center of the frame. Even in the corners, this lens performs exceptionally well, which isn't always the case with 50mm lenses. Stopping down to around 2.8 or f4 improves sharpness slightly, but honestly, it's already so good at 1.8 that you don't need to stop down unless you just want to add more depth of field in your compositions. So if you're shooting weddings, portraits, and the occasional landscapes on vacation, the level of detail this lens delivers is top tier. Nikon really knocked it out of the park with the optics on this one. Now let's talk about the bokeh. One of the things that really surprised me about this lens is just how smooth and creamy the background blur is. At f1.8, the transition from in focus to out of focus areas is incredibly smooth. There is no harshness, no weird distractions, just a nice natural blur that makes your subject pop. This is especially great for portraits because it helps separate your subject beautifully from the background. Now if you look closely at the bokeh balls, they're very nice and round in the center, but as you move towards the edges, you might notice a bit of cat's eye effect. It's not extreme, but it's something I still wanted to point out. Overall, the bokeh quality on this lens is fantastic, smooth, natural, super pleasing to the eye. It might not be as extreme as an f1.2 lens, but for a 1.8, it's definitely one of the best I've seen. Now I have to confess, I am a big fan of shooting backlit scenes. There's something irresistibly dreamy about letting the natural light shine behind your subject, and this lens handles it brilliantly. Even when I point it right into the light, the flare is controlled and adds a beautiful ethereal glow to my images. Whatever Nikon is doing with these Z-mount lenses in terms of coating is vastly superior to the old f-mount glass, because while those lenses are okay shooting into the light, the 50mm f1.8S is just phenomenal at it. Now let's talk about the autofocus, because if you've used Nikon's older DSLR lenses, you know this is one area where the Z-mount lenses absolutely destroys older f-mount glass. And using this lens on the Nikon ZF, well, it's just next level. With the ZF's eye detection autofocus, this lens locks on instantly and stays locked. Even when my subject is moving, the autofocus keeps up with no hunting. It's smooth, accurate, and practically silent thanks to the stepping motor, which is great if you're shooting video as well. Now if you've ever tried adapting an older f-mount lens with Nikon's FTZ adapter, you'll know autofocus isn't as fast or reliable. Those lenses were designed for DSLRs with phase detect AF in the viewfinder. And when you adapt them to a mirrorless body, they just don't perform as well. The Z-mount lenses, on the other hand, are designed specifically for Nikon's mirrorless system, so they take full advantage of the improved autofocus algorithms and on-sensor phase detect points. So all of the Z-mount Nikon lenses are really superior in autofocus performance over the f-mount glass. So with the Nikon ZF and this 50mm f1.8S, autofocus is not an issue. Whether you're shooting portraits, weddings, or even video, you can trust this combo to nail focus almost every time. Now let's quickly talk about build quality. I'm not exactly the delicate type, in all honesty. I should give my gear a little more love because I tend to give my equipment a bit of a beating, and it holds up. I never worry about getting my Nikon gear wet or little bumps it might take on shoots and wedding days, because in 10 years of shooting Nikon, various Nikon gear, I've never had anything damaged very easily. And it's the same with this 50. It's built like a tank. So if you are a less than gentle person with gear, rest assured this lens is up for the challenge. Okay, so now that we've covered the reasons why I love this lens, let's talk about some minor negatives. And to me, these aren't really deal breakers, but I think it's still worth mentioning because your deal breakers may be different from mine. Okay, so the first thing that's a bit of a negative is the weight and size of this lens. It's a bit bigger and heavier than Nikon F-mount 50mm lenses of the past, but not a huge difference. If you were to use an F-mount 50mm lens on the Z bodies, you would have to use an adapter like the Nikon FTZ mount, and that would probably add the size and weight of this 50mm 1.8S anyways. Another negative, and this one was big for me, is that this lens has no aperture ring. I shoot weddings with a Nikon ZF and I absolutely love that camera because of the vintage style. I sometimes like to switch to full vintage mode on a wedding day for funsies and use the dials on the top of the camera instead of the control wheels. And having an aperture ring on this 50mm lens would have given me the full vintage feel, but unfortunately there isn't one. But yeah, I know this wouldn't be a big deal for most people. Okay, I guess we can also technically say that the 1.8 aperture is another negative and that it's not 1.4. While the new Nikon Z mount 50mm lens is f1.4 and might have that extra stop of light on paper, in real world use the difference is surprisingly minimal. The f1.8 aperture on this lens still lets in plenty of light, making it a solid performer even in dim conditions. What really wins me over is the overall quality of the 1.8S. As mentioned before, it's outstandingly sharp, smooth bokeh, and robust build quality that makes it my go-to choice, even when every bit of light counts. So while the 1.4 may nudge ahead in raw low-light performance, the 51.8 wins hands down when it comes to overall performance and quality. Alright, well that's a wrap on my review of the Nikon 50mm f1.8S. If you own this lens, let me know if you think I missed any key points about it in the comments below. If you're thinking about picking one up, I've included an affiliate link in the description below. Every purchase helps support my channel, so thank you in advance. And of course, it'll be an absolute honor if you considered subscribing. Be a good human and I will see you in the next video.